Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer 7512-601 louver door gravity pivot, non-hold open, steel base, bright black japanned. This pivot it consists of several different parts, so I'll show you all of the parts now at this time. Starting at the bottom, we're going to have the bottom pivot assembly, which consists of the frame portion and the door portion. So let's look at the frame portion. Angle bracket for attaching to the frame. First of all, let's dissect the part number. 7512 means that this is a louver door gravity pivot, non-hold open. Specifically meaning that this is going to be, 7512 means that it's for doors from 7/8 to 1 5/8 thick and up to 50 pounds. Okay, so that is going to be your 7512 part of the part number. Now the 601 part of the part number means bright black japanned. You could call it kind of like a gloss black. That's sort of finish. Very common finish that I see when I see these installed. Coffee shops, doors going to the back of the counter out to the public area. I see with these all the time. So here's the door portion. So you've got a pivot assembly here that gets attached to the bottom of the door. Then you've got this plastic portion that's cut on that aggressive miter there, that cut. Let's call that the positive. Inside of there would be the negative. You can't really see it because everything is just so dark. But there's an opposite cut of the same sort of material that's inside of there, so that when the pivot or when the door is pushed open, it would emulate this sort of action. Here's where the gravity part comes in. You can see that the door is going to raise when you push the door open. The door will actually raise up a little bit. And the weight of the door will bring it back to center every single time. Okay? Nut on the bottom, which holds the assembly. You normally would not really adjust that whatsoever. Okay. Now, moving to the top portion, you're going to have the frame part, okay, an angle again with a bushing, and you'll have your top pivot. And you can see that there's a long post there. And that's because, and we'll get to that when we talk about the template, but as the door raises, got to have room for that to do so. And that's how that works. Now, screws are going to be included. In a complementary finish, all wood screws. Okay. Now, below this video is a link to the template and to the instructions. They carry a lot of the same information. The template is an exhaustive amount of information regarding the dimensional properties of the hardware. So I won't go over any of that stuff because it's all there. The template also shows two different types of way that you can mount the door in relationship to the bottom pivot. You can see, and if you want to open that now, that'd be not a bad idea. You can see on the left side of the template how the bottom assembly simply mounts to the bottom of the door. You can see on the right-hand side of the template how the door is cut out or notched out, if you can use your imagination. Okay, I don't often see it installed that way, and I can't remember a time that I have actually seen it installed that way. And maybe because your doors probably would have to be custom made for doing that. If you're dealing with louver doors, generally there are dowels or lags or some sort of assembly holding the door together down between the stile and the rail. So maybe cutting into the door like that may not be a good idea for this sort of application. However, maybe that is going to be something that you can do. After discussing that regarding the template, I think we're pretty much done. So now let's move to the instructions. The instructions are included with the hardware, so you'll get them included. Upper left-hand corner, let's go over the instructions now. Parts. All the parts there, as we've just gone over. Step 1, fasten bottom bracket to the jamb. Bottom bracket only can also be installed up or down as shown. So what they're saying is you can remove the nut, turn the bracket over, if you wanted to, and set the assembly like this. Okay? I really only ever see it installed this way. But you can do it either way. Be sure bottom bracket is in vertical alignment with the top bracket. What they're saying there, when you get to installing the top bracket, you've got to make sure that the pivoting axis of the top bracket and the pivoting axis of the bottom bracket are plumb. Okay, it has to be like that, otherwise your door won't work really well, or as well as it ought to. Step 2, fasten pivot cylinder and bottom bracket. Okay, sure. You would attach that, and obviously you would need to remove that to get to the screws back here. That's why they leave that removable. Okay. Moving to step 3 now, that's kind of where there's a little more discussion that's going to really be necessary to discuss. The reference on step 3 to the round jamb edge of door with 7/8 radius. If you were to install, you're going to need to radius the pivoting edge of the door, because if my palm is the jamb and the square profile of the fist is the door, when that rotates, you could see that there would be a conflict between the outer edges of the door and the frame, unless you had a really large margin there, but you can't alter the margin easily. You can't alter the margin, but if you were to round over the edge of the door, okay, so now radiusing the door edge over is not difficult, but if you don't have any tools to do it, you might want to just simply order your doors made for that. Now, I've radiused doors for this sort of operation more times than I could probably recall. The way that I've always done it is I've had a router that's got a little more horsepower than your average router, maybe a 1 horse or a 1.25 horse router. And then I would have a roundover bit, a very large roundover bit. Okay, so what they're saying is 7/8 radius. Now, the radius of your door, the radius of the prep that you do to the edge cannot be any smaller than, cannot be any larger than the door thickness, because you wouldn't have enough radius. You wouldn't have enough clearance to still get through that. So a 7/8 radius. Horse, when I've done it, a 1 horse router, and I've modified the base of it to get a large roundover bit installed into the base. You know, typical router bases are made for 2 flute straight sort of bits or whatever. Nothing, 7/8 radius, that's a very large bit by the time you're done with the bearing and everything else. You over 2 inch. You generally can't fit anything like that into the bottom of a router base without modifying it. I would lay my door down on sawhorses, clamp it, or whatever, and come with that router and just come right down the vertical style of the door. And you want to be sure not to be putting any sort of pressure this way on it. You want to just come and exit straight off. 2 passes is what you need. 1 time to get the work done, then 1 more time just to clear out any sort of, hiccups that you might have. Any more than that, it's probably not necessary for you to do. At that point, take your door and just flip it over, and then do it again. That's the way that I would go about doing that if I was doing it in a small shop or doing a small volume and you didn't have the benefit of, a CNC door router or a CNC router. While you're at it, maybe just do the other side as well, because that will give you a tighter margin between the door and the jamb. They don't really give a margin that I can see between the door and the frame on the template, but in my experience, you're not really going to be getting 1/8, 3/16, that sort of radius is where you're going to be. So the bottom line is, if you don't have the ability to be able to radius that door edge, you're going to have to pad the door off the jamb somehow. So radiusing the door edge is going to be important for you to do. If you're ordering the doors, have your door supplier do that for you. Once you get the door radius, you can see in the rest of step 3 talking about attaching the top pivot to the door. Okay, you see that? And then the bottom pivot. And per the drawing, they're basically saying flush that, in this case, maybe this way, flush that to the edge of your radius as you would on the top. Now, jumping back a little bit, your jamb brackets. Look at step 4 now. Realize that you've got to leave that 3/4 inch gap between the underside of the top bracket here and the top of your door plate. And that again is to allow that room for the door to properly work as it's opening. Okay? So again, step 4, fasten top bracket, allowing clearance. Make sure door is permitted to rise and fall. To help with door alignment, shims may be used on bottom bracket to help rotate door in or out. Sure, what they're saying is if you needed to kick the bottom of it, whatever way, so that when the door opens, there's a bit more, mechanics happening on that door to get it to close a little bit better. If you have an incredibly light door, I suppose that could be the case. You might toy with that a little bit. Also, lower left-hand corner of the instructions, the 7512-H is a hold open version, and it's the same deal, except what they've done is they've taken and squared that off so that you could take the door, get it to about 90 degrees, and it'll stay there because it's resting on that crowned off area on the inside door frame portion and the door portion of that. And that's really everything. Now, I've installed these plenty of times. It's really a walk in the park. The only difficult situation could be is if you don't have that ability to radius over a door, you'd have to compensate for that because a square edge door is going to give you a little bit of trouble. But if you're a mill shop, a lot of mill workers buy this material from us. You're likely very well set up to do that sort of operation. The bottom line is I've done it. The tools, the machining, the installation, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. This item is available in several different finishes as well, not only the 601 black finish, but every other sort of finish that you can. One final thing that I'd like to show you is the Bommer logo. I know it's hard to see. Bommer logo. It says right above there, it says Made in USA, a fact that Bommer is quite proud of, as am I to represent them. If you have any questions on the Bommer 7512-601 Gravity Louver door pivot or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.